Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to another Minecraft Java video. Today I'm going to show you guys how to get more FPS in your Minecraft Java game and how to fix any lag that you guys might be experiencing in your Minecraft Java edition. I am on the latest version of Minecraft Java and this is version 1.17.1 and I'm going to show you guys a few methods that you can take in your Minecraft Java edition game for version 1.17.1 to try and reduce the lag in your game. Some of you might be experiencing some really slowness in the game. You might only be getting 30 FPS or 20 FPS in your game. So I'm going to show you guys how to try and increase your FPS. So if you guys are on a lower end system, on a low end PC, then hopefully some of the methods that I am going to show you guys today should help you out. I am going to leave all the links in the description, so anything that I do download and install today should be in the description below. So I would highly recommend that you do take time and read the description as well, because I am going to put a lot of information in there as well to try and help you guys get more FPS. So I'm going to show you guys different methods today of how to get more FPS in your Minecraft game. So just go ahead and try all of those methods out, and hopefully one of them should help you to get more FPS and get a boost in your Minecraft Java Edition game. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is download a few programs and a few different things to help us get everything set up, and I'll show you exactly what we're going to do to begin with. So first of all, let's go ahead and download Java, because we do require Java to help us open up the jar files, which are the installers for mods like Optifine or Forge. So in your internet search browser, just start typing in Java JDK17, wait for that to load up, and we should look for a link for the oracle.com website. So as you guys can see, this is the oracle.com website. Let's click on that, and if we go to the Windows section, I am on a Windows-based machine, and I'm going to download the x64 installer over here. So I'm going to click on this file to start the download, and I'll be right back. Alright, so the Java JDK17 file has finished downloading. So let's close down this window now, and we can now go into a different tab and we can start downloading a map, which I'm going to use for all of the benchmarks I'm going to do today. So I'm actually going to be doing several different benchmarks using different setups. So using this map is going to help us keep everything consistent, and it's going to keep everything fair. So let's go into the CurseForge website. So in your search bar, just type in curseforge.com and wait for that to load up. Click on Minecraft and then click on Worlds. And in your search bar, just type in how to build, because that is what the map is actually called. And let's wait for that to load the results. And as you guys can see, we do have a world that is called How to Build by Lorenzo, and it should have a few numbers after his name. So click on this file over here and then click on the download link and wait for that to start up. As you guys can see, it is game version 1.17.1, and as I said earlier, we are going to use this map to benchmark the different scenarios that I'm going to show you guys today. Okay, and finally, I'm also going to download a FPS counter application. Now, Minecraft does have its own console in the game where you can press F3 and you can see your FPS in the game. However, that does actually slow down your game, believe it or not. So we're going to use an external program to measure our FPS. And the easiest thing to download is Fraps. Some of you might already own Fraps, or some of you might have different applications like MSI Afterburner, or even use NVIDIA's own FPS counter, and that's completely fine. You guys can carry on using that, but if you guys have never used that before, I would recommend to download Fraps and install that. So let's go into our search bar again and just type in Fraps and go to the fraps.com website and then click on download, and let's download this version here, which is a free version. It's a trial version, but that does not affect the actual usability of this application, because all we are interested in is the FPS counter, which is what is going to give us completely free. Okay, so I'm going to put all of these three files on my desktop and I'll show you how to get everything set up. Alright, so as you guys can see, I have placed the files on my desktop, and I'm going to begin with installing the Java JDK file, because as I mentioned earlier, we do need Java to actually open up the installers for stuff like Optifine or Forge or any kind of mod installer that we would use. So let's open up this JDK installer. As you guys can see, it does say the software has already been installed on your computer. Would you like to reinstall it? I'm going to select yes, and I'm going to continue with the installation as normal. Alright, so as you guys can see, it does say Java has been successfully installed. I can now click on close and I can go ahead and delete this file. Okay, so the next file I'm going to install now is the actual map, which is the how to build map. And as you guys can see, this is a zip file. So first of all, open up your Minecraft launcher and wait for that to load up. Once it does load up your Minecraft launcher, click on installations and then hover over where it says latest release or any of the installations in this section. Click on this folder icon and that should open up the Minecraft main directory for you. In the Minecraft folder, look for a folder that says saves. So as you guys can see, my mouse is over a folder here that says saves. So I'm going to double click on this folder and go inside it. Now inside the saves folder, this is where all of our worlds are saved. So if we do ever create a new world, it will get saved into the saves folder. Now we can actually go ahead and open up this how to build zip file. You guys may need an application like WinRAR or WinZip to open up this zip file. So let's go back inside this folder, and what we're going to do now is we're going to drag this how to build folder and save it inside the saves folder like so. And just to make sure that it is the correct folder, I'm going to go inside it and you should see different folders and the files that it's showing me right now. And now when I load up into the game, hopefully I should be able to play this map. So I can now close this down and I can now close down this zip file as well. Let's highlight this and delete it. Okay, so now we can go ahead and actually install Fraps. So let's go ahead and do that now. I'm going to open up this setup file. I'm going to go ahead and install this on my D drive and let's continue. And it's a quick installation, it's already done, there we go. And as you guys can see, it now has created a shortcut for the Fraps application. So let's go ahead and delete this setup exe file. Alright, so now we can actually go back into our Minecraft launcher, and the next thing we're going to now do is actually create a new installation. So I'm actually going to go ahead and create a fresh installation so you guys can see that I'm going to start a fresh and default installation for version 1.17.1. Let's go ahead and click on new installation. So again, do make sure that you are in the installations section like I'm showing you here. Click on new installation and in the name just put something like 1.17.1, and then where it says more options, click on this bit here to show the drop down, and then where it says Java arguments, now I am going to give myself slightly more RAM. So as you guys can see right now, it says XMX2G. Now what that means is that it's allocated 2 gigs of RAM to the Minecraft game. Now normally that should be more than enough for your Minecraft game. So if you guys are seeing a bit of lag in your game, you can go ahead and try to increase that to something like 4 gigs of RAM. Now if your computer only has 4 gigs, then leave that as it is. That should be completely fine as it is. But if you guys obviously do have more than 4 gigs, for example, if you have 8 gigs of RAM or 16, you can go ahead and increase that and see if that helps you out to get more FPS. Now on my computer I do have 16 gigs of RAM, so I have not noticed much difference, but for those of you who are on low-end systems, you can try this out. Okay, let's go ahead and click on create. And now you can see that I have created a new installation for the latest version, which is 1.17.1. Alright, so we do need to make sure that Fraps is running in the background. So let's minimize this quickly and let's open up Fraps. And you should see a window when you open up the Fraps shortcut that looks like this. You can see that the overlay key is F12. So if you keep on pressing F12 on your keyboard once you're in the game, it will move your FPS counter to each of the corners in the game. Let me also quickly go ahead and disable some of the other hotkeys because they would interfere with my Minecraft game. So let's disable this and let's go into movies and let's disable the video capture hotkey and the screenshot hotkey as well. Obviously you guys can use it if you want to, but as I said earlier, this is the trial version, so all we need for this is the FPS counter. Alright, so let's minimize this now and let's go back into our Minecraft launcher. And I'm now going to launch the 1.17.1 installation that we just created. I'm now going to delete my options file so that all of the settings are restored to default. And to do that, I'm just going to highlight any one of these 2 lines, click on the folder icon over here, and I'm going to go into my Minecraft directory and I'm going to look for the options.txt file, and I'm just going to hit delete on my keyboard, and that should basically delete the options file and restore the settings to the default settings. So now we are ready to launch the game, and where it says 1.17.1, I can click on play and let's just wait for the game to now load up. Alright, so as you guys can see, the game is now launched, and now we can just maximize this window, and on the top left I can see the FPS counter. So this is the Fraps counter, and we do know that Fraps is working. We can now go into options and click on video settings, and I'm just going to enable the max frame rate and increase that to unlimited, and then I'm going to disable VSync because we do want to see how much FPS we can get and if we can get more than 60 FPS. So now let's launch the single player here. So let's look for the how to build world that we installed earlier. So on my screen, it is right all the way at the bottom over here. Depending on your worlds, it might be somewhere over here, but on my screen, it is all the way at the bottom here. So as you guys can see, it says how to build. I'm now going to enter this world. Okay, so now we are in the game. Alright, so as you guys can see, we're now inside the game, and you can just look around here. This is the how to build map. It's a really cool map. You guys should check this one out. It does have some cool structures and builds in here. And the benchmark, which I'm actually going to do now, it involves a few steps. And the way I've figured it out is to actually notice this block over here, which is a different color. So just move into the line of this block, and if you're facing this counter over here, just look at that and then look to your left. So basically just look to your left of the counter, making sure that you are standing in the middle and you are in the same part of that block which is colored. So just do that like I've just showed you, and just leave your cursor completely still and just look forward. So as you guys can see right now, I'm getting on average 450 FPS, which is what my FPS counter is showing me on the top left there. If I was to press the F3 on my keyboard, you guys can see that my FPS has actually gone down. So as you guys can now see, my FPS is showing as 280 FPS, which is a very substantial drop in FPS. So any of you guys who have been ever using the F3 console to check your FPS, chances are that you may not have been getting your proper FPS, what your game would be giving you. So just have a look at this. If I disable the F3 console, my FPS does go up, so I'm back to 450, 460 FPS. And we are on the default settings, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, and we can start tweaking our settings now to try and get even more FPS. So let me just jump around and get rid of this tutorial window there. Alright, so let me go into my options and let me go into video settings, and now I can start to decrease stuff and see how that increases my FPS. So to begin with, I'm going to change the biome blend and make that to off, and as you guys can see, it is the fastest setting over here. For the render distance, now render distance is one of the main culprits for giving you slow FPS or lag in the game. This is one of the major things that affects FPS in your game. So I would highly recommend to actually put that down to 4. After a lot of testing, I have found out that 4 is a good mixture between getting good FPS and being able to see further in the game. Obviously, 2 is the lower setting, but in my opinion, that is quite a low render distance, and you won't be able to see much further distance in the game if you were to set the render distance at 2. So in my opinion, just go ahead and set that to 4. Obviously, if you guys are getting good FPS, you can increase that all the way to 8 or even 12, but for now, let's set that to 4. For the graphics, I'm going to set that to fast. For the smooth lighting, again, I'm going to switch that to off. VSync is already off, and I'm going to set all of the other stuff to off as well. I'm going to set clouds to off as well. Particles, I'm going to set that to the lower setting, which is minimal. Entity shadows, I'm going to set that to off as well. Map levels, I'm going to drag this slider all the way to off, and then do the same for the rest of the stuff here as well, like so. So basically, just try and put everything to the lowest possible setting in your video settings options here, and try to make the render distance to 4 chunks, and just make sure that everything is on the lower setting or even switched off if you can. Now I can click on done, and it's going to relaunch the game again. It's going to reload the game settings. So I'm going to now click on done and go back inside the game. So as you guys can see, my FPS has increased substantially now. So before I was getting close to 450 to 460 FPS, and now you guys can see that it is actually touching 700 FPS. So if you guys were getting low FPS, just by doing a few tweaks in your normal game, you can actually achieve higher FPS in your game. One more thing to notice is that if we go back into our options, the FOV also plays a part in giving us high or low FPS. So if I was to increase my FOV and put it all the way higher to Quake Pro FOV and go back, you guys can see that my FPS has dropped to 530 FPS compared to 700 FPS, which I was getting before on the normal FOV. Now, if I go back into options and then if I actually lower my FOV, so the normal setting for FOV is the 70 figure, but if I just go back slightly and go to 60 on this, I should get even more FPS. So as you guys can see, I'm now getting 730 FPS dipping down to the 720 figure there, but it is much higher than before. So if you guys are getting lower FPS, this is another thing you can do, is just to tweak down the FOV slightly, and that should give you even more FPS from my experience. And finally, one more thing to note is that we can get even more FPS by playing the game in full screen mode. So as you guys can see, I am actually playing the game in windowed mode. I'm now going to press F11 on my keyboard, and as you guys can see, it is actually touching close to 740 FPS. So I was able to get slightly more FPS. It wasn't a lot, but it was actually slightly more FPS than I was getting before. So just to give you that extra FPS, you can go ahead and play the game in full screen mode. Some of you already might be playing the game in full screen mode, so this won't actually affect you. But for those of you who like to play in windowed mode, then this is another thing that you can try. Just press F11 and that should go into your full screen mode, and you should get more FPS. As you guys can see, I'm now getting 750 FPS, and is actually touching 760 FPS, which I think is the highest that I have actually ever seen the default game run for me in version 1.17.1. So this is just the default installation of Minecraft, and it's no mods or anything as such, and I am able to actually get more FPS just by doing a few tweaks like I've shown you guys today. Okay, so if you guys are still getting low FPS, then keep watching the video, because I'm actually going to show you guys even more steps that you can take to increase your FPS. So now I'm going to go ahead and install a few more mods, and I'm going to show you guys how to do that and get even more FPS in your game. So if you guys are already getting 60 FPS in doing this method and you are happy playing the game like this, then do carry on. But for those of you who are still getting low FPS, for example, you're still getting 30 to 40 FPS or anything below 60, then keep watching the video, and hopefully this video should help you get more FPS. I'm going to go into my next step and show you guys how to get even more FPS in your Minecraft Java game. Alright, so the next mod that I am actually going to install is called Optifine. Now, some of you might have already heard of Optifine or even be playing with Optifine at the moment, and it's a really cool mod because not only does it allow us to play with shaders, it also has a performance boosting mechanism in the mod, which is really cool, and it does actually give us more FPS. So we're going to go ahead and install that now, and we're going to quickly see how much FPS I can get compared to the default vanilla game of Minecraft Java Edition version 1.17.1. So again, go to your internet browser and go to the Optifine main website, which is optifine.net, and then click on the download section over here. And if you click on the preview versions drop down here, so it is actually easy to miss this, but if you click on this plus icon here where it says preview versions, it will load up the different versions of Optifine, which are the latest release of Optifine. And as you guys can see, the pre-6 version of Optifine, as of today's date, actually supports Forge 37.0.65. I have already done several videos about how to use Optifine with Forge and how to use Optifine with Fabric as well. And again, I'm going to leave the links to those videos in the description below so you guys can check that out. And if you guys want to play Optifine with Forge or with Fabric, then definitely do check out those videos. Okay, so the latest release, which is pre-6, as you guys can see, I'm going to click on the mirror link over here, and then I'm going to click on download to actually start the download for the latest version of Optifine. Alright, so as you guys can see, it has finished downloading the preview Optifine pre-6 version, which is the latest version of Optifine as of today's date. I'm now going to place this file on my desktop, and I'll show you guys how to install it and get everything set up. Alright, so you guys should notice that this is actually a jar file, and because we actually installed Java earlier, our lives should be much more easier now, because we can actually go ahead and use Java to open up this installer for Optifine. So right click on the jar file and then select open with, and then just select Java platform SE binary, and it should open up the Optifine installer. So it should look something like this, like it's showing me on my screen right now, and just hit the install button over here, and you should get a message that says Optifine is successfully installed. Click on OK, and now we can actually delete this file. Let's highlight this file and hit delete. We can now actually go back into our Minecraft launcher. On the bottom left here, in the drop down, you will see a link here that says Optifine for version 1.17.1, and this is the pre-6 version of the game. If you guys are watching this video sometime in the future, chances are that the versions might change, so it might be a different version of Optifine completely. So don't worry about the version number, just make sure that you are getting the latest version of Optifine. Let's go into the installation section over here. As you guys can see, a new line has been created for Optifine, and we can now click on these three dots, click on edit, and then let's click on more options. And now I can actually give myself 4 gigs of RAM for this installation as well. And to be honest, it won't actually make much of a difference, but it is worth trying that out as well if you guys have been getting a lower FPS. Okay, now we can actually hover over Optifine for version 1.17.1 and then click on the play button here to launch the game with Optifine loaded. Alright, let's maximize this window, and as you guys can see at the bottom here, it does say Minecraft 1.17.1, and in brackets it does say modded. If I click on options, click on video settings at the bottom, it does say Optifine as well. So we do know that Optifine is installed and is working as it should be. Okay, so let's go back into video settings, and now your screen should look something like this, and you should see several more options, and you should also have a shaders button here, so you do know that everything is working as normal. Now, because we are already actually turned down a few settings before it has remembered some of those settings, but we are actually now going to configure Optifine and make sure that we are getting even more FPS by configuring and tweaking Optifine to maximize our FPS. So to begin with, if you click on details over here, and you should see a few settings over here, I'm actually going to turn down all of the settings as much as I can. For clouds, I'm going to set that option to off, and then for trees, I'm going to select fast. For sky, I'm going to select off. For sun and moon, I'm going to select off as well. For fog, I'm actually going to leave that on fast. For the fog setting, I'm actually going to change that to fancy, because surprisingly, by changing fog to fancy, it does actually improve the FPS because it actually enables fog. It helps hide all of the stuff in the distance. So by having fog set to fast or fancy, it's actually going to help us out. I would recommend to change the fog start setting to 0.2 because that is actually going to help us a lot as well. For the translucent blocks, I'm going to set that to fast. Dropped items, I'm going to set that to fast as well. Vignette, I'm going to set that to fast. Entity distance already been set to the lower setting, and so has biome blend. Alternate blocks, again, set that to off. Swamp colors, set that to off as well. Held item tooltips, now this is optional, we can set that to off or leave that on. Fog start, as I mentioned earlier, just keep that as 0.2. Show capes as well, it doesn't really matter, you can keep that on as well. Stars, I'm going to set that to off as well. And then rain and snow, we're going to change that to off. And the cloud height already has been selected to off as well. So we can now click on done, and now we can go to animations, and this is quite easy. We can just click on all off because we are going to turn off all of our animations, because that can have a slight impact on the FPS. Again, if you guys are getting close to 60 FPS or even more than 60 FPS, then by all means go ahead and enable some of the animations, but for now we're going to disable everything and then click on done. And now let's go into the quality section. Similar to how we did it in the detail section, I'm going to switch everything to off as well, or set them to the lowest possible setting. So let's go ahead and start doing that now. Alright, so as you guys can see, we have actually set everything to off, and I've tried to make everything to the lowest possible setting. You will notice that in this section, when you start turning stuff to off, it will actually reload the game menu again. So you will see a red bar and it will say Mojang. So don't worry about that. Just make sure everything has been switched off to try and give us more FPS. So once your screen looks something like this with most of the settings turned to off, click on done, and now we can go into the performance section. And in this section, I'm going to actually turn a few settings on and turn a few settings off. So we're going to turn on fast render, we're going to turn on fast math. For smooth world, I'm actually going to turn that off, and then dynamic updates, I'm going to turn that on as well. Lazy chunk loading, that is already on, and then smooth FPS, we're going to leave that as off. And for smart animations, I'm going to change that to on as well. Now you guys can go ahead and enable the render regions, but I am actually going to leave that off because it does not work on some of the older machines and the integrated graphics cards. So I'm going to leave that set to off So just make sure that your settings do look something like this, like I have done on my system. I'm now going to click on done, and I'm going to click on other, and for the autosave option I'm actually going to change this to 12 minutes, because if it is set to 6 minutes or lower, then you can notice a bit of lag when it tries to autosave. Again, if you guys are worried about crashes or you have had crashes in the past, then again just change that back to 6 minutes. But for my computer I am going to change that to 12 minutes, so I'm not bothered by the autosave mechanism slowing down my game. Okay, so I'm now going to click on done and then click on done again. My FOV is already set to 60 because that is what we set our FOV to previously. And if we go back into video settings and go to shaders, just make sure that your shaders are also disabled as well. And now we can actually go back into single player, and let's go back into our how to build world. Alright, so as you guys can see, I am now getting close to 1000 FPS, so I am getting 1050 plus FPS in my game, and this is all thanks to installing Optifine, doing those extra tweaks, and you can actually see it actually reached 1100 FPS. And all of these settings that I did show you guys earlier should help you get even more FPS. If you guys were getting really low FPS on the default installation, even after doing all of those tweaks that I did show you earlier, then by installing Optifine, you should be able to get slightly more FPS. And thanks to the fog, as you guys can see, I mentioned earlier, I set the fog to 0.2. It does actually help us with the FPS. And again, you can just press F11 to go into full screen mode, and that should give you even more FPS. So you guys can see I'm getting 1160 FPS. So I think that's really cool, and thanks to Optifine and its amazing performance ability, we are able to get more FPS in the game. Now, for those of you where Optifine does not work, there is another alternative which we can use, and that is called Sodium, and that is a fabric-based mod which you guys might have heard of. I have done a few videos on that as well. So I'm going to show you guys a package which we can actually download, which is for Sodium, and it contains mods like Sodium, Sodium Extra, Starlight, and other mods to give us the same functions that we would see with Optifine. And it's going to be a mod pack which I've compiled. So I'm going to show you guys how to download and install that so that you can try and see if that actually gives you even more FPS in Optifine. Now at this stage, if you guys already are getting good FPS, then you don't need to worry about that, but again, you can go ahead and try it to see if you do get more FPS. I am after that going to show you another thing that we can download as well that should also give us more FPS than the regular Optifine. So just keep on watching the video and hopefully you should be able to get even more FPS in your game. Okay, so to begin with, we do need to make sure that we have got the CurseForge client installed, and I have done a video for that. I will leave a link in the description of how to actually download and install CurseForge and get everything set up. So do make sure that you guys do check out that video. For those of you who already are using CurseForge or have ever used it in the past, then this should be quite fairly straightforward for you. And to be honest, the CurseForge application is fairly straightforward to use. All you have to do is install it, log in with your Minecraft details, and you should be good to go. So let's go ahead and open up the CurseForge program and wait for that to load up. Alright, so on the left hand side, it should select the Minecraft option here. As you guys can see in the My Mod Pack section, it is actually saying no profile currently installed. I haven't actually got any of the mods or mod packs installed. So we are going to go ahead and actually install a mod pack on CurseForge. So we are actually going to install a mod pack that combines Sodium with Sodium Extra and Starlight and loads of other FPS boosting mods that should help you get even more FPS in your game. Click on the search bar over here where it says search for mod packs and just type in the channel name, which is Gamer Potion, and just wait for the results to load up. And as you guys can see, these are some of the mod packs that I have created, and the one that we are interested in that is going to give us the most performance in our game is called Boosted FPS. So click on this. You guys can go ahead and read up about this, but we are going to install it now. So click on the install button here and just wait for that to finish installing. Now you can actually go ahead and install this on other launchers. You don't have to use the CurseForge launcher. You can actually do this on GD launcher or MultiMC or any other custom launcher for Minecraft. all you would have to do is actually go to the curseforge.com website and then click on Minecraft, making sure that Modpacks is selected here, making sure that Modpacks is selected to start typing in boosted FPS, and you should see boosted FPS by Gamer Potion. Click on that, click on files, make sure that you do download version 0.3 because that is the latest update, and then click into that file and it should generate a download link as I just showed you, and then you can click on download and it should actually download the zip file for this mod pack. You can then go ahead and import the zip file in your other launcher like GD Launcher or MultiMC, and that should install this mod pack using the import function as well. Let's go back into CurseForge, and that should have actually installed the mod pack for us. You can see that this is the latest version, which is 0.3, and it says boosted FPS. Now, if we right click on this, click on View Profile, and we should have 3 dots over here. So let's click on that, click on the profile options, and for content management, I'm actually going to tick this box that says allow content management for this profile, and then click on done. This is going to allow us to install more mods into this mod pack. If we click on installed mods, you can actually see that I have actually gone ahead and installed most of the performance boosting mods that we can get for Fabric. So we've got stuff like Sodium, which is combined in iris shaders. We've got Sodium Extra, Starlight, Smoke Suppression, Lithium, Lazy DFU. We've also got FPS Display, Fast Chest, Dynamic FPS. We've got a few of the culling mods. So if you guys actually don't want to use this mod pack, you can just use it as a reference to try and get some of these other mods, which should help you get more FPS in your game. Okay, let's click on add more content, and let's go and click on maps, and let's search for how to build, because we are going to use that as a benchmark. As you guys can see, it has brought us the how to build map here. I'm going to click on install, and this is one of the main reasons why I really do like the CurseForge launcher. It's really easy. You can click on install and it installs the mods really quickly. You can go into the mod section or even resource pack section and download different texture packs and mods for this by just clicking on the install button for them, and actually increase your mod collection in your mod packs. So it's a really cool launcher. I would highly recommend you guys actually try out CurseForge, and you guys can have a lot of fun by checking out different mods in your Minecraft game. Alright, so now that the how to build map has finished downloading, we can go back and we can just click on play, and that should launch the default Minecraft launcher, and we're going to click on play again to launch the game. Alright, so this is going to be familiar. This looks something like the default Minecraft launcher, but now you guys can see it says boosted FPS at the bottom left here. I'm going to click on play, and let's wait for the game to now load up. Alright, so as you guys can see, the launching screen was a bit different there, and we are now in the game. You can click on the mods button here and just have a look at the mods to make sure that everything is working as it should. You don't have to worry about the options because I have actually gone ahead into the video settings and tweaked the settings in this as well. One thing to note is that we can actually go ahead and turn down the max shadow, and also go back and actually change the FOV to 60 because that is what I was using earlier for my other comparisons. Okay, let's click on single player, and then let's go into our how to build world, and let's see what kind of FPS we can now get inside the game. You will notice that I have actually enabled the FPS display count on the top left there, so let's go ahead and disable that because I am using fraps. So let's go into our mod section, click on FPS display, and let's go ahead and disable it for the sake of this video, and let's go and do our method that I showed you. So stand on the same line as this block, and then just look on the left hand side. As you guys can see, I am getting close to 1000 FPS using this mod pack. So if you guys were getting any problems with Optifine, then this is another thing that you guys can check out and use to try and get more FPS in your game. Or if you guys do like to use Fabric and you like to use Fabric mods, then you can go ahead and download this Fabric-based mod pack and add mods on top of it, so then you can get better FPS in your game as well as be able to enjoy your Fabric-based mods as well. Okay, so finally I am going to show you one more thing that you guys can try out and install to try and give you even more FPS. Now, hopefully this method should give you the most FPS in your game because it is going to combine Optifine and it is going to combine a few more tweaks to give us the maximum FPS in our game. So let's exit out of this. The final thing that I would recommend that you guys check out is a Lunar Client, and just go to lunarclient.com, click on download and install that, and this should actually give us more FPS. I'm going to show you guys how to tweak it to be able to get more FPS in your game. Now, Lunar Client does come with Optifine, so as I showed you guys earlier, Optifine did give us some nice FPS in our game. So by using Lunar Client, we should get even more FPS in our game. So let me close down this window. Let me actually open up the main Lunar Client application. Let's wait for that to load up now. And as you guys can see, it says launch. Do make sure that you actually launch the 1.17 version, because 1.18 is actually in beta mode. So we're actually going to load up the most stable version, which is 1.17. So click on 1.17 and click on the ready to launch icon over here. You might see it say updating, and it will download a few things, but just wait for that to actually download and update, and then it should launch the game. Alright, so once it actually loads up the Lunar Client, you can go ahead and maximize that, and you might actually find yourself having to log in with your regular Minecraft account or your Microsoft account. So go ahead and do that, and you should see a screen that looks something like this. Now, if you click on single player, that will take us into the load game option, but we need to configure a few settings first. So at the bottom here, click on Lunar settings, and then click on mods, and then click on settings over here, and finally click on performance. And what I've done is I've actually gone ahead and tweaked these settings so that we can get slightly more FPS. I have played around with these settings and I found that I am able to get the most FPS by selecting these options. So as you guys can see, I've ticked these boxes and I've changed a few of these settings to the lowest possible option, and hopefully this should give me even more FPS. So just make sure that your settings do look something like this, so you can actually pause the video and just make sure that your settings match how I've done them on my screen. Okay, let's close this down, and now let's go to where it says Minecraft settings at the bottom here. So just click on this icon here where it says Minecraft settings, and click on video settings, and we're going to change the Optifine settings again. So similar to how I showed you earlier on in the video, I'm going to go ahead and actually change everything to the lowest possible settings for Optifine. Alright, so I've gone ahead and actually changed all of my settings to the lowest possible settings, and as I showed you earlier in the video, I have actually tweaked everything down to the lowest possible option. So if I go to details, you can see that I've turned most of the stuff off and changed the other stuff to fast in the options there. Same for animations, I've turned everything off, and quality as well, and the performance as well I've enabled some of those settings and left the other settings switched to off as well. And for the render distance, I've changed that to 4 chunks and left everything as it is. Let's turn down the smooth lighting level to off as well. I'm going to get rid of the VSync by turning up the max frame rate to unlimited as well. So I think now we can go and launch the game and see if we can actually get more FPS than we were getting on the regular version of Optifine. Let's change our FOV back to 60 because that is what I was using as a testing purpose as well. And let's go back into the game. Let's click on single player, and now because we already loaded how to build into our default Minecraft launcher, this is going to bring us all of our existing worlds as well. So if you were playing on your existing worlds on your vanilla launcher, then the good news is that you can actually play them using the Lunar Client as well. So let's click on how to build over here and let's wait for that to load up. Alright, so as you guys can see, I am getting 1120 to 1140 FPS as an average using the Lunar Client, and this is slightly higher than what I was getting in Optifine, or close to that figure to what I was getting in Optifine by default. So just by using a few tweaks and different applications, you are able to get even more FPS in your Minecraft game, and hopefully this video would have helped you guys out, so you can go ahead and try all of the different options that I have showed you guys today and see which one gives you the most FPS. Some of you might get better FPS by using Optifine, some of you might get better FPS by using the Sodium mod pack, and some of you might actually get better FPS by using the Lunar Client as well. If you guys do have any comments or queries about how to install all of these things that I have showed you guys today, do leave them in the comment section below. Also, do drop a comment below and let everyone know which one of these methods helped you out, and if you got any higher FPS compared to your vanilla game. If you did find the video useful, please do give it a like link. And also, please do subscribe to this channel to help support it, help it grow. And I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.